back for more Sex Education. This is episode 2 of season 3. Very excited as always to carry on and really get stuck into this season. A very good start with the first episode. Lots of new things being introduced. Lots of crazy things going on. Otis and Ruby are a thing, so we'll see that get a bit more explored, I'm sure. Otis and Maeve, the classic miscommunication with that. We have a new kind of headmistress who I'm unsure of. We'll see a bit more of what her deal is. I'm getting, I don't know, bad vibes underneath all the good vibes she's trying to get out. So I guess we'll see what's happening with that. What else do we have? Eric and Adam, somewhat teething issues, I guess, in their relationship. Turns out Adam's dad's brother is Lucius Malfoy. So that's a thing. And yeah, lots of things. And Jean told Jakob about the baby, and I think he's going to be there supporting her through that. So that's kind of sweet and wholesome as well. But yeah, lots kind of being juggled as always. So I'm excited to see where it goes next with this following episode. So let's get into it. Oh. See, it's sad that he's not comfortable yet, kind of being like this in public. Not this particular part. Oh, heck. Here we go. Oh, good. The controlling makeover portion. See, this is clearly where I'm at a loss, because I think he looks a million times worse now.
But the facial hair's got to go.
Yes, okay, that I agree with.
That is an interesting outfit. Very
Yes.
suave.
Very 1960.
You don't look stupid, OT.
Otis is actually going to be your brother.
You lucky thing.
Oh, shit.
Why is everyone staring?
Probably because of what you're wearing, Otis. OT.
What are you doing?
Can't find a new look, Adam.
Why?
FYI?
But are you sure Adam isn't going to mess you around? I think he's still not comfortable with himself. I don't want you.
I mean, he's not. You are right. Oh.
I hope last score achieved 9% 8A star rating, so I'm not complaining. I mean, researching it.
Smiling is not about unity, it's about control.
Well, I'll have the wall painted in the next couple of days.
Oh, we can do that. What? We'd love to help paint it.
Hello.
But I think I might like someone else. Isaac. It is, isn't it?
Yes.
I know that. Well, I mean, she bumped into me the other day.
My pronouns are they, them, but no worries. I'm Cal.
Ah.
Should make your case.
Oh boy.
Hi. Gonna go talk to her.
I'll have my assistant send over some suggestions for more appropriate song choices.
They're going to be singing Happy Birthday every day of the week, aren't they? Oh, do love fudge.
If you need to talk, then I'm here, man. Oh, that's right. Fine. Cool. Thank you. Goodbye.
What made you break off the relationship before?
Oh, with a number of things.
Jean kissed her ex-husband.
I see.
That being one of the things.
I made a mistake. I don't think I'm ready to let go of being a full-time mum. I'm 48, and he's had a vasectomy.
I hope I aged that fucking well. Jesus.
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Ooh. Tomorrow.
Oh.
He keeps trying to kiss and cuddle me, and I know he doesn't mean to put pressure on me. But no, I just feel safer when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
I've been on foot since the bus.
We're still casual. I want us to try something new.
Casual doesn't seem like you. You used to care a lot.
Things are easy when you don't care. Nobody gets hurt.
Well, I'm getting hurt. What about me? Oh.
I don't. This isn't what I want. Otis, what do you mean?
He said that you would change your minds, that you weren't comfortable with yourself yet.
Okay, I'll tell you. Promise.
Oh boy.
I've found a flat to move into. So
Yep.
Hi, Elsie.
Aww.
I missed you. So tomorrow's purple day. We all have to wear something purple.
I don't have anything purple.
I left something out for you.
You what?
God, you don't like the fucking Joker.
What, do you want me to come and help?
Did you want to have sex again?
No, just thought you might want some help with your dad.
It's kind of sad that she doesn't think anyone would want to just spend time with her and help her out unless she sleeps with them.
This is a stupid exercise, and I really want to kiss you.
Oh. Wow.
Don't know how to say what I'm thinking, so I don't say anything at all. People think I'm scary or stupid.
It's a big step that he's actually talking to someone, even if it's not Eric.
It might help you think more clearly about what you want to say if you don't feel observed.
You should wear your normal clothes again. That top makes your neck look very long.
I don't care what the therapist said. I think we should be a family. Jean.
When's my mum going to be able to come and see Elsie?
She should be here now. Does she run late often?
Sorry, my mum's coming here.
Yeah, this is a family visit. I assumed you two would have spoken.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Hi, Mum. What's she doing here? She's the reason Elsie's in this happy, clappy shithole, not with me. I think I'm going to come back another day. Yeah, you do that. Nobody wants you here. Bye-bye. Bye.
Oh god. What on earth? There it is.
Sorry.
I've got to say something.
Oh,
Okay.
voicemail?
I listened to the message and I deleted it. Something about him still having feelings for you and that he felt like he'd messed things up. He said, call me back if it wasn't too late. But all the shit that you dealt with, I don't think Otis understands it at all.
Oh, you know him so well, do you?
Treated you at that party.
That's true, but you were also horrible to people at the party.
I know.
Otis doesn't understand me,
Oh,
but neither do you. Because if you did, you know that I don't trust anyone.
I'll give him credit. He needed to tell her. I'm glad he got it from him.
I want to tell you how I feel, but I don't want you to look at me. Don't want to have sex with you. I want you to have sex with me. That's how I would like to do it. I would love to put my dick in you.
Ah. Communication! Finally. At least someone's fucking communicating in this bloody show. See, they're quite sweet. I still think there's work to be done, but... Oh, Michael's gonna want to stay here. Oh no.
I want Jakob and Ola to move
Move
in.
in, oh.
If this is what you want to do, then yeah, I'm fine with it. Being at home forever.
I have a shirt just like that one.
Thank you for being so adult.
It's more brown, so Ruby would hate it, but it's exactly the same. I've just realised. Aww. But it's so early in the season, it's all going to go wrong. I'm going to want to cry and die.
I mean, you're terrifying. Interesting.
Agreed. Good. I'd have been very, very, very against this if she was like, no.
Probably make people think this jacket is cool.
I would like to be better at school and maybe not be in the bottom set anymore. Thanks, miss.
Ah, his character's come a long way, man.
Not wearing purple. Well, I think we should
Why are you wearing purple?
shut the front door.
It's my new look.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
On fire.
Don't need a boy when I've got you.
Maeve, why is your nose ring still in?
Don't make me ask again.
If you're taking it away, you
Start
don't have to.
thinking you're not as smart as people say you are.
Oh, God, no, I don't like her. Yeah, I agree.
A form of artistic expression that, in my opinion, shouldn't be censored.
What do you think about it, Vivian?
I think the wall should be painted over.
Would you like to take over Jackson's job?
Sure.
What?
No, absolutely. Yes.
Fantastic. You start today.
Oh, shit.
This will give you lots more time to focus on your artistic pursuits.
You say no.
I mean, you could have. That's just eliminating the opposing voices.
Hello, Moria. School uniforms will be introduced on campus from next week. They are compulsory.
I told you. It's never just a line.
He did warn you all. Okay, another really great episode. Lots to talk about. I think we'll start with Eric and Adam and their kind of story. I think that was probably the main one in this episode, I'd say. I feel like that got most of the time dedicated to it, so it makes sense to start there. And yeah, it is cool to see them still try and navigate exactly what their relationship is, how comfortable either of them are kind of expressing it, whether it's just the two of them, you know, in public. And yeah, it's a real showcase, I think, of how far Adam in particular has come, from like the guy we saw in episode 1. And I think this episode, like really highlights it. So I think it was the very first episode where Adam comes to Otis and Jean's house, and I think he has a few scenes with them there. So to get that again in this one, to see him like turn up and have a conversation with Otis, which we don't get a lot of, it kind of reminded me of that. I was like, oh god, yeah, that was one of the early episodes, and we kind of had that stuff going on. And this was kind of a big deal for Adam, I guess, to learn how to better communicate his feelings. And, you know, what either of them would have wanted from their sex life. Clearly they both wanted to be bottoms, I would say, based on that kind of, when they were first going to try it. So, you know, it's just about having that conversation, pushing past the awkwardness of it. And I liked seeing them try and navigate that. I think we more so got development on like Adam's side rather than Eric's. But, you know, Eric is very comfortable with himself and his sexuality, and I think Otis is, you know, bang on the money that Adam still isn't quite there yet, obviously. But I think he's making those important steps for seeing that, you know, even when, you know, Eric isn't around him to impress, he's still making those changes, like the classroom, you know, refusing to help out with the prank on the teacher. And then seeing that Otis's advice worked, I guess, about not being observed, when he kind of spoke to Eric about how he was feeling. He then kind of continued that on in his, you know, school life as well. So that's nice that he's actually taking that on board with his personal and professional lives to try and better himself. And I think it's really cool to see him take those steps and try and get away from, I guess, the regime he was almost brought up with having Michael as a father. You know, that family just did not express themselves at all, or how they were, what they wanted. We saw Maureen go through a very similar journey last season, trying to finally learn to express herself and say what she wanted, and now Adam's kind of going through, not obviously an identical process, but the same kind of end goal that they want to achieve in being able to express themselves a bit more. So it's cool to see them both, you know, now out of Michael's shadow, really, you know, explore who they properly are. So that was cool. I liked that a lot. And yeah, a real showcase of how far Adam's come. I understood Eric's kind of frustrations with that. And, you know, Otis being the concerned friend, you know, I also understand that, but how that could also then twist things. And, you know, when Eric was just didn't take the time to really understand maybe where Adam was coming from, give him the time to explain himself, and he was like, oh, Otis was right, and just walks off in a huff. You know, I get that, because he's assuming that, and he knows Adam isn't fully comfortable with himself yet. That is where his mind's going to go. But he just, I think Eric also needs some, you know, he has work to do as well. Maybe not so much on himself and his sexuality, because he's very comfortable with that, but being in a relationship with Adam as well, because he did make the choice to be with Adam at the end of last season. And, you know, it's a two-way kind of thing. You know, they both have to balance it out and make some sacrifices. And when Adam, when they were sat opposite each other on the bed, back to back, and Adam was trying to kind of communicate, Eric was just instantly, he said one sentence and Eric was like, I don't know what you mean, Adam. He's like, well, let him explain. So I think Eric needs to kind of actually give Adam the time to do that, because once he did, they made some positive steps. So I did like that there was just a bit of, confusion over exactly how they were going to do it and what they wanted, it to be. I also think, just doing it in an open wood was also quite the choice. I'm not sure if, I don't know. You have conversations about the birds and the bees, but I don't think I want to actually see them around me in the wood while I'm doing it, So yeah, that was quite something. But I like that they made some positive steps forward in that relationship. And I think there's going to be more of an understanding there. And Adam's also using that in his, personal and professional lives. So I like that development with those two. Because when they're at their best together, they are really sweet, and they clearly are on similar kind of levels of play and fun, and like just dancing around together a bit. I loved the first scene where Eric was doing Adam's makeup. He's just like, I look very pretty. He's just like, he is very comfortable with himself when he is around Adam, when he's around Eric even, in that sense. But, I think there's still work to do in terms of how he's viewed on the outside. And we saw that more so, in the last episode, it was more so everyone's kind of perception of him in general in the school. This one, it was like, what Otis was saying about him when he wasn't around, was kind of getting to him there. So that was really interesting. I liked all that development for them. That was all very well and good. And then Otis and Ruby, God, what a pairing. I mean, there's non-stop fun when those two are concerned. I'm so glad that they went the way they were, they ended up going with it. It's the way I assumed it was going to, so I wasn't going to get mad about it. But I like that Otis was just like, this is who I am. I either want to be with that version of me or you don't. I want to be with this version of you. Again, she needs to, at a base level, accept Otis for who he is, because he's doing the same for her. If they want a deeper connection and to be boyfriend and girlfriend, so they made it official. I like that, because I think Maeve is right when it comes to Otis. Anything remotely meaningful to him, relationship-wise, has been deeper feelings that he's had. And he just doesn't seem like a casual person, and I think that was very much how this ended up going. So that was very frustrating to see her just instantly try and change him, especially when she was like, I'll never date him, I'm not going to make it official, but she's still changing him that much. That I wasn't a big fan of, just telling him everything that was wrong about him, just for something casual. But I think, Otis was right as well in saying, it's easier for people to not get hurt. It's easier for her to just keep a casual life, if that's all she's ever used to, because then she doesn't have to deal with like complex emotions and stuff. Because I'm sure she already deals with a lot of that with her home life, because it can't be bloody easy for her having to look after her dad. So she goes through a lot of her stuff. She probably doesn't want any more hurt and pain outside of that, so she keeps things very casual with people. But I like that she was willing to just accept Otis at the end there, willing to actually make it official with him, and just be with him as him, not, the 60s version of Otis that she was dressing him up as. Because my God, I mean, again, I'm no fashion guru. I wear plain stuff, so I can't really say either way if he looked particularly good. To me, I thought he looked like a fool. He was dressing like Eric, but Eric pulls it off and it actually looks good on him, whereas Otis just no buddy. And I'm also glad that the facial hair gone out, because Jesus Christ. So yeah, I did like how that relationship ended up going, and it's also very sad with Ruby just assuming people don't want deeper relationships with her, because maybe she's interesting, maybe people just want to get to know her and not just sleep with her. So it's kind of sad that that's like her view on guys, it would seem, and maybe she has just been burned before and we haven't properly explored that. And I think that's just, she doesn't think much of herself if that's the case, which is also very sad. But things can change now because Otis is interested in her for her. And I think, she's been lying to herself that she's not interested in Otis for Otis. But I think there's an acceptance of that near the end of the episode. So I'm happy to see that relationship play out. You know, it's an interesting pairing. Obviously, Otis and Maeve is still going to be, I think, where they will ultimately go. But, you know, it's not like, oh my god, I hate these two together. They're obviously not going to work out. End this charade. That is something Sex Education has done very well, I think. Even if you're not like, oh, I'm not rooting for this pair, they're still, you know, they end up having nice moments that you can appreciate, like Otis and Ola. You know, I liked them together. I didn't think it was going to last. I didn't want it to last, but they were nice together. I mean, I did struggle with Eric and Raheem near the start, but by the end I warmed to them as a couple a bit more. Even if I was leaning more towards Eric and Adam happening. So I like that, you know, while I'm not like desperate for Otis and Ruby to last or go the distance, because I think Otis and Maeve are still inevitably going to happen. You know, it's going to happen. I'm happy to see where this relationship goes with them as characters, because I think Ruby there is some interesting stuff to her that we can unpack through the means of being in a relationship with Otis. So I think that'd be cool to see different sides to her, like we have gotten in the past. So I like that. And then speaking of that, Maeve and Isaac. See, I'm so conflicted over Isaac, because I truly believe his intentions with Maeve are sweet and innocent and pure. He really, really cares about her. But he has been horrible to basically everyone else he's interacted with except his brother. You know, and he deleted the voicemail. But I will give him credit. I'm glad that Maeve found that out from him, no one else. As soon as there was like a hint of something happening between them, he was like, you know, I need to be honest with you about this. So now I think the only thing he can do is improve himself and build up from that. You know, I don't think it's going to get any worse for him from here. I don't think he can sink any lower from like deleting that voicemail and stuff. So I like that he was open and honest about that. And in terms of like him being with Maeve in a relationship, and obviously Maeve was like had feelings for him back, you know, I actually think there's nice chemistry there with them. I actually think they can be quite sweet together. But there's always that voice in the back of my head like, you were horrible to like everyone else. So good person for Maeve, maybe. I don't think that's done at all, that kind of relationship, especially with Otis and Ruby going on. I think Maeve and Isaac will probably be explored more, and then maybe we'll get Otis and Maeve in season 20 or something. But yeah, is he a good person for Maeve? Maybe. I can see it. Is he a good person? Jury's still out for me, because he has been awful. So I don't know. He's had his fair share of good moments. He's a very complex person, and I do appreciate that. And I do think, you know, that relationship not done. I think it's going to get to a point with Maeve. She's just fed up of not having those connections in her life. You know, that bridge is pretty burnt with her mum at the minute. And she does have a bond with Elsie, but you know, she doesn't get to see her all that often. Otis is now going steady with Ruby, and they weren't particularly close anymore anyway, so she's even Isaac's out of the picture maybe because he betrayed me. Lean more towards Otis again, but he's like, I'm with Ruby now. So even that's done. So the proper bond she does have is with Amy. And maybe it's going to get to a point like I'm just fed up of not having these connections, not having these friends, and maybe they can build something up again with Maeve and Isaac. I think they'll probably, you know, explore that dynamic and that relationship more at some point before we get anything like Maeve and Otis. I hope we get a conversation pretty soon between Maeve and Otis where they just air all the dirty laundry, being like, look, Isaac deleted that voice message, now I know what you were saying, blah 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 blah. But maybe at this point is it just too late because they're both sort of kind of moving on. I'm sure, you know, the air will be cleared about that at some point. I just don't know when that's going to be, but I'm excited for it. Also kind of dreading it because those two can't necessarily communicate very well with each other, as we've seen. But you know, they're also teenagers, so how can you communicate well? We saw a lot of that as well in this one with Eric and Adam, etc. So yeah, there's that. Very torn on it, but I think we'll get more of it, and hopefully there'll be some exploration there and some good character stuff. For Isaac and Ruby, I think this is a good chance to probably get to know them. Because I think there's a glimmer of a good person in Isaac. I think I'm just yet to really see it and connect with it. But I do think this is like a redemption for him now that they're kicking off. The fact that, you know, he told Maeve this early in the season is a huge pleasant surprise for me. So I'm giving props to him for that. He shouldn't have done it in the first place, and still like, ugh. But I like that he's like, it's not an excuse, because I think there was some bullshit to him being like, I was just doing it to protect you. I think that was just him trying to save face. He wanted Maeve. So I do think there's a bit of BS to that, which I wasn't a big fan of. But we'll see where it goes. Then we have Ola and Lily had a few moments. Ola finding out that her dad's having another kid. That's probably going to be a lot to her. I think that makes sense that she's like, I need time to process that. But now her and Jakob maybe moving in with Jean and Otis is going to be quite chaotic. I'm looking forward to seeing that house burn down. Especially because, it's like sweet moments between them, and it's still so early in the season, so I'm just like, oh god, it's all going to crash and burn. We've still got like 6 episodes left. So we'll see what happens with that, but hopefully we get more of Ola's perspective on this whole thing. So I think we've seen a lot of Jean and Jakob, and obviously it makes sense that those two are getting the main focus, but we've also seen a lot of how Otis is kind of responding to it. And I liked that growth with Otis, actually. I think season 1 Otis would have been like, what? Moving in? No way. But now he's like, whatever you need. I think he's much more doing the whole sex clinic thing. I guess he just opens up a lot of, it's opened up his mind to like really being aware of people's feelings. And we saw that, I think, with Adam as well, when he was trying to kind of, analyse him a bit. So yeah, I'm excited to see maybe a bit more of her side of things in terms of that. I don't know what's going on with Lily, I'll be honest. I don't know what is happening with the crop circles and all of that. I don't know if that's just like someone tricking her somehow, or she just happened to stumble into this big conspiracy thing. I really don't know where that's going. I'm not sure I want to know where that's going, if I'm honest. I felt that was a bit odd. But, Lily's screen time is Lily's screen time, and I will kind of take that, because I do really like Lily a lot. I love how wacky she is. Hopefully it leads into more exploration of her as a character and a person, and her relationship with Ola, rather than just being, aren't we a weird, wacky plotline, because this show's weird and wacky. I hope it's just not that kind of deal, The goat in the last episode was quite a lot, It felt like, oh wow, that's bizarre. But they still had a sex education like twist on it, and it was still like about someone's journey and someone's story. So hopefully that's leading in a similar direction, rather than just being, oh, it's a wacky alien plotline because Lily's a weird, wacky character. Ha ha ha, aren't we clever? So we'll see where that goes. I'm a bit unsure of that in a minute. What else do we talk about? We're still seeing Michael. I need to remember his name's Michael now. Mr. Groff, Michael. We're still seeing him kind of struggling a bit. Lying about having a job, lying about having a new flat. He's still kind of falling apart a bit. I'm waiting to see properly where that's going. I don't know how I feel about him getting, why are we following him? Like, where is this going? Of all the characters we could be focusing on more, I'd rather see more like what Maureen's doing rather than Michael. But again, maybe it's the actress not being available that much. But she has, we've seen her in the episodes, so you could still maybe do more. I don't know. I don't know what the point is yet of why we're following Michael. Why do we really care when he's been a dick for 2 seasons? There are more characters I'm interested in the redemptions of than him, like Adam and Isaac. So, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's going to lead to something a bit, more interesting. But still, we've got a few nice scenes. Maybe it's just they're building up to this friendship with Michael and Colin. If they humanise Michael a lot more, I think it will be worth it. And yeah, Colin is just mental and crazy. But, he does seem like a decent guy deep down. And I like that we did circle back to the scene between Michael and Colin earlier. I was like, where is this going? That felt weird. It's like, did this episode just run short for Netflix and they wanted an extra scene? But, now they're living together. So that's going to be a continuation of that story, I would assume. I guess maybe they just want to shift the focus onto more adult characters rather than just having a lot of the teens. Which I can kind of see why that may be something they want to do to make sense. So maybe that's why they're doing it, but we'll see. I'm interested. I'm not against seeing where that leads. So we'll have to, wait and see. And yeah, Jean and Jakob's stuff. I liked that they were trying to get kind of like cancelled a bit and tasks to do. That was the thing with this episode, like little exercises was like a big theme in this one. Jean and Jakob have that. And then you know, what Otis was telling Adam, you know, kind of like doing some exercises in trying to communicate better, like writing things down or just turning your back. Like, so I like the implementation of different exercises and how that applies to different relationships in the show. You know, different kind of age groups, different sexualities and stuff. You know, all going through different exercises to try and bond or not bond. So I thought that was an interesting run through the episode had, linking a few stories. But yeah, I think it was kind of inevitable that those two were probably going to get back together at some point, and I do like them together, so I am glad. But I'm also nervous because so early in the season, fuck knows where that's going. But yeah, I really liked their scenes when they were just allowed to open up a bit, and Jean feeling like, oh, I'm not ready to let go of just being a full-time mum. It's almost like a perfect time for her almost, and Jakob's been quite supportive of that. And, you know, they started feelings for each other. That was very obvious. So they're going to give things a go. Could be quite chaotic. I don't know how I feel about them. Like, oh, let's just move in together that quickly. Because that's kind of been their downfall before, I think, things moving so quickly. But maybe the baby will change things up. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And, you know, they went through the breakup before. Maybe they're both going to have grown from that. And Jean's going to be a lot more willing to kind of take on board having Jakob and Ola around a lot more, because it was her big frustration last season. How's it going to bode well this time, especially with her being pregnant? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I did like that those two sort of found their way back to each other. The spark is still very much there, so I'm excited to see more of that relationship, especially because, you know, Ola and Otis aren't together anymore, so it's still going to be kind of awkward for them, but not as awkward as it would have been. So there we go. And then Amy is still struggling, obviously, after the whole bus incident. I hope we get to see her and her appointment with Jean. I think that could be a really, really powerful scene, so hopefully we're going to get some of that. But, you know, I think there's some kind of miscommunication as well with that. I don't know if Steve just like, oh, it's been a little while now, Amy's over it. I can, like, because, you know, she let him hug her at the end of last season, I think it was. You know, as you thinking, oh, maybe I can make these steps now, I can try and kiss her, or we can hang out, or whatever. I don't think there's anything malicious about it. I think he doesn't know where Amy's at with things right now. I don't, you know, you can understand her not telling him because she doesn't want to speak about anything like this, and maybe her speaking to Jean about it will open that gate where she can communicate better, because again, like communication, doing some exercises to express how you're really feeling, maybe that's something that Amy also needs to go through, much as Jean and Jakob did. Eric and Adam are doing as well. But yeah, I like that they haven't just dropped that story and just contained it to season 2, and the fact that it's still very much affecting her. She's just not interested in having sex with Steve yet, maybe ever. We'll have to see. Obviously that's going to be a big obstacle, especially when you're a teenager. So hopefully they will treat that story as well as they did in season 2, and they just give it the time to breathe. But yeah, I can understand why Amy's still very much in that place. And, you know, I think through no fault of his own per se, because he doesn't know where Amy's at. You know, Steve may be, you know, biting off more than he can chew right now in terms of how he's perceiving Amy's development. You know, she can say she's fine all she wants, and Steve's just going to take that at face value. Like, oh good, she's getting better, even though we know that's not going to be the case. So, miscommunication. It's a classic. It's sex education. It's a TV show. Characters are going to miscommunicate. So yeah, hopefully that builds up to some really powerful stuff at some point this season as well, because, you know, Amy's story last season was a huge highlight, I think. Not for, you know, what happened to her, but, you know, the acting behind it and the writing and how they executed a lot of some moments in that story were so good. So yeah, hopefully we get more time with that. 'Cause Amy and Steve are low-key like my favourite couple in the show. Genuinely. I think they're so wholesome, and I think they really deserve more screen time together. Obviously, Steve really doesn't get that much anyway, so I'd love to learn a bit more about him and what makes him tick, because everything we've really seen of him has been about his relationship with Amy rather than just Steve. And I thought maybe we'd get more of him when Amy last season was like, maybe I don't want a boyfriend anymore, and kind of, you know, things simmered down a bit. I thought, oh, maybe we'll get to know Steve a bit more on his own, but nothing really happened. We just didn't see him. So we'll see. Hopefully those two get to be and have some standout moments this season as well. And yeah, it was nice to see LC see that she's doing all right, but Maeve and her mum big disagreement. And, you know, Maeve's mum was horrible to her there, being, oh yeah, no, I don't want you here. But I'm also like, she's clearly struggling. She still needs help. You know, she fell off the wagon again. Is she really saying what she means? I don't know. You know, she's you know, a recovering addict. So hopefully there's room to build up that relationship again, because it was getting to a really sweet place. But we'll see. The fact that we are still seeing the mum and she's popping up and everything makes me think that we will keep seeing her. Maybe there'll be some development there at some point. So yeah, it was cool to see that, you know, Maeve still has some kind of outside connection to Elsie and still gets to see her. That was sweet. And then I guess the last little thing. Oh, Cal. I think it's Cal is their name. They, them. So non-binary. So that's some cool representation. I liked that. How casual they were as well. You know, some people are just gonna mislabel and misgender people, aren't they? So as long as it's not maliciously and they just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and just ignoring, being like, oh, that's not my pronoun actually, you know, I think that's fair enough. So I like that they're introducing, you know, a non-binary character and kind of giving even more representation than they already have. You know, I think the show is very good at its representation for the most part. So I like that they're continuing to elevate that season by season. I think that's really cool. And clearly there's a connection between Cal and Jackson that I think will probably be explored. And I guess Jackson has more time for that now. He's not gotten those duties to work with Hope, and now Viv's getting them. I must say, I'm a bit disappointed in Viv for just being like, yeah, absolutely. Being like, yeah, I'll take on his duties, absolutely. I get it. Like, she wants to suck up to the new teacher, and it's going to look good on her CV for her future and everything. But I feel like part of her arc last season was live in the here and now a bit. Friends are still important, and your friendships with them. You know, don't make your life all about getting into all the good schools and getting the best grades and stuff. You know, you still need to live and have friends. And I feel like that was a bit of her arc this season, and I felt they've just forgotten that going into this season, which is a bit of a shame. It feels like a bit of a step backwards for her. But maybe, you know, they'll just find a way that she'll make amends for it, or maybe she'll go for an arc of her own. But I felt that was a bit of a shame. Obviously, I still love her because Viv was fantastic last season, and I'm sure she'll continue to be this season. But it just felt like that was something early season 2 Viv would do rather than early season 3 for me personally. Maybe because it's now the last year of school, she's really, really thinking about the future, and, you know, I don't know. I like that at least she tried to immediately explain herself to Jackson, but it just didn't feel like her heart was in it really. She was like, oh yes, absolutely. Even a bit more of I don't know, and she had to like have her arm twisted or something a bit more before she just outright agreed. So I thought that was a bit of a shame, honestly. But I think also Hope is just very manipulative in that way, and she's going to get her way, and I think maybe there was a bit of that going on too. But yeah, it was interesting to see Jackson kind of stand up for himself a bit about, was it the Wall of Cock or something? Yeah, absolutely hilarious. Didn't have anything like that in my school. That's just where I live. But yeah, it was, I feel like they're just maybe stripping away, you know, some of his school responsibilities just to show Hope's ruthlessness about her new regime and everything she wants to implement. But also maybe it opens up more time for Jackson to maybe explore a connection with Cal and see where that goes. I feel like that's where that is heading, because, you know, they've had a few moments together. Viv even pointed out, oh, Jackson's got a crush. So I'm guessing that's going to be where Jackson in his story this season more so going to lead, rather than maybe being head boy trying to negotiate that, because Viv's just going to take on some of those duties now instead. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, don't like Hope. I've decided I do not like her. She's obviously very manipulative. Her reading Jean's book and like scoffing at it, and she had one voice kind of opposing her. You should take account lots of different voices and opinions and stuff. But Jackson disagreed with her on one thing, and didn't even say like, oh, it's the be all and end all. You know, we have to keep it. I think he was open to a negotiation. She's like, right, Viv does your duties now. You know, taking that power away because he didn't necessarily agree with her on something. More of a dictatorship kind of going on now than a democracy. You know, Some things I will get, like single file, fine. My school had the single file things up. They didn't paint lines through the school. I feel like that just makes it look tacky and horrible. So I don't know what she was thinking with that. But, painting all the lockers so they're all the same thing. And implementing the school uniforms, I like what Raheem was like, told you. It's not just, walking in a straight line. It's control. She likes having that control. She likes having that power, I think. And that's more than obvious at this point. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to go. Maybe we're going for a bit of a revolution, or she's going to go for an arc as well. But right now, hate her. The actress is fantastic. She's doing a really good job at being like, oh, you bitch. But the character herself, I'm like, so yeah, I think she's very, very quickly shown her true colours. And I don't like them. I see her true colours shining through, and they're shit colours. So yeah. She's one to watch, I think. I'd keep my eye on her. She would absolutely stab you in the back with no hesitation. But yeah, I feel like I've talked for ages on this episode, so apologies. If you're still here, congratulations, have a cookie. But yeah, I felt like there was just so much going on in that one, so many characters juggling. But again, they do a great job at it, I think, like balancing all the different stories. So I do have to talk about it a lot because there's a lot of good stuff in there to talk about. But yeah, fantastic episode. Really enjoyed a lot of what they had going on, particularly the Adam stuff I thought was very strong. I liked the Otis and Ruby stuff ultimately. I'm, respect to Isaac for coming clean to Maeve about what he did, but, he's right, it doesn't excuse him doing it in the first place. That's still horrible of him. But I think there's more to that story, and, the fact that Maeve was starting to like him back, that's clearly not the end of that, because they've got to drag out Motis and Eve, I was about to say. I guess, is Motis their ship name? I guess it would be, but I meant to say Maeve and Otis, or Otis and Maeve. They obviously need to drag that out a bit longer, so we'll see what happens with all of those different relationship things. And yeah, still kind of waiting to see where the Lily stuff's going. Same with more of the Michael situation. And I was a bit like, about that scene with Viv. It felt to me personally like a bit of a step back for the character, which is a shame. But still, maybe they'll come through in the end, because at the end of the day, I've only seen 2 episodes of an 8-episode season, so anything can happen. They might still be going in different directions. Even this one episode, I was like, I don't like this Ruby and Otis, where this is going. But the point of the episode was Otis learning to stand up for himself, being like, you just need to accept me for me. And she did. So I was like, well, that's where that ended up going. I'm happy with that. And maybe that's where some of these plot lines I'm not as sure on have arcs of their own. It just takes a lot longer to pay them off rather than just contained in one episode. So we'll see. I'm more than open to seeing where it goes, because the writing on the show has been like excellent all the way through. So I'm sure they have some great stuff coming for all those plot lines. So we'll see. But yeah, overall, fantastic episode yet again. Not really a surprise at this point, but yeah, very excited to see where we go with the next episode and beyond. But until my next reaction, thanks for watching.